Flinch is one of those terms, like bloom or bullet deviation, that makes most FPS players cringe at this point. And look, I'm down to talk about bloom or bullet deviation sometime soon if you guys are interested, but in this video we're going to be talking about flinch. And really, especially when it comes to Call of Duty, flinch was a really smart idea. Hear me out. Call of Duty has a hierarchy when it comes to its weapons sandbox, so some weapons just end up outperforming other weapons due to damage, range, RPM, damage per second, and tons of other bullshit factors, I don't know. So what does Call of Duty look like without flinch? Well, you get Black Ops Cold War, a game with an exaggerated hierarchy where DPS abuse is king more so than usual. When using underpowered weapons in the Call of Duty games of the past, being faster meant that you were likely going to secure the gunfight due to how flinch worked. It added something more to your bullets, it gave you more lethality. Black Ops Cold War removing that, so that each one of your bullets is doing less than it would in a previous COD game by not making your opponent flinch, means that often 50-50 gunfights are going to go to whoever is using the stronger weapon. The person with the weaker weapon has to work much harder. They have to be faster, they have to be aiming for the head, they need to be strafing in the gunfight, they're just going to have to work harder. A problem that almost every Call of Duty has had, but again, like I've said before, Black Ops Cold War doesn't invent new Call of Duty issues, it exaggerates the old ones. You also get a game filled with head glitchers that end up simply not fearing enemy fire the way they should. If you have chest-high cover, and you are fighting somebody who does not have cover, you've caught them out in the open, they're, stupidly trying to move to the other side of these very symmetrical maps, you are likely going to win. Even if they shoot you, they have a smaller target, and they're not going to be able to move your red dot, your scope, your iron sights off of them by landing shots on you. So if you have cover, you have a lot of advantages they simply don't have. You also get a game with a fan base that expects you to respect a more skill-based meta, when the rest of the game is incredibly detached from the concept of skill-based or even fair. That aforementioned exaggerated hierarchy spits in the face of any sort of fair skill-based concept. Look, it's hard to respect the game's gunplay when there's such a large disparity between weapon classes, an issue that is worsened by the lack of flinch. By the way, I imagine that in certain competitive environments, this game is more respectable in terms of its, one-on-one gunplay, but I play public matches like most other people, and that's what I'm talking about. Obviously, if you play in an environment where most of the unbalanced stuff is just banned, then yeah, you're gonna probably have a bit more fun. But when it comes to respecting the game's gunplay, like I said, using something that forces consistent recoil control with a more pronounced requirement for headshots against someone with a tac rifle or a sniper rifle, it's simply a death sentence. And I'm not saying no skill is required on the tac rifle or sniper rifle user, I'm saying that, in all, this no flinch test is a bust. It doesn't make the game unplayable, it just exaggerates issues that the franchise has always had. In a game with fair start, like a Halo game, no flinch would make a lot of sense. Everybody's starting with the same weapon, it's a much more even playing field, but this is Call of Duty. There's a hierarchy of weapons. There are some weapons that can kill you in 3 bullets or a single trigger press, a 1 burst. You can get killed by getting shot in the upper chest by a sniper rifle just for having the stupid inclination to move out of cover. And no flinch in that environment doesn't work. Also, flinch works as a variable that developers can play with. They can set it so that you receive less flinch when using certain weapons, or you receive more flinch when using certain weapons. You provide more flinch to your opponents or less flinch to your opponents depending on the weapons you're using. Flinch isn't something you can just globally turn off and expect no issues. Black Ops Cold War is evidence of this. Even if you disagree with everything I'm saying here for whatever reason, I really think that we can all agree that sniper rifles in Call of Duty need to have flinch, especially in a game with this many chest-high walls that people can just head glitch over. When using an underpowered weapon in old Call of Duty games, your bullet would make the enemy flinch. So if you were catching them off guard, if you were faster than them, you were going to win, likely with a little bit of aid from that flinch. Still, getting the drop on somebody and being faster than them is still a good idea in Black Ops Cold War, but when compared to other Call of Duty games, you're simply less lethal due to that amount of flinch. In this video, I don't want to get into all the different flinch implementations that are possible. I don't want to get into every single way that flinch has hurt me in the past or helped me in the past. I don't want to get into exactly how I would design flinch. By the way, it would be diagonal, not horizontal, not vertical, so you don't just get free headshots from it. But this video is not about that. It's about the concept of shaking your enemy's sights when they're getting shot. In Black Ops Cold War, the maps are so predictable, and usually people are going to be funneling through one of 3 to 4 lanes, So it's not like it's an unpredictable random factor that when you get shot from somebody that you flinch. If you're getting shot in the back in Call of Duty, you're likely going to die anyway, right? When Call of Duty is as predictable and as simple as Black Ops Cold War is, then why do you also need to not have flinch? Like, the no flinch idea doesn't mesh with that at all. This means I can watch a lane with a high damage weapon, let people come to me, and even if they land first shot, even if they work harder than me and they come around the corner, they start shooting my smaller target, you know, my upper chest and head, and I'm not flinching. And I have an M14, I have an M16, I have a Pellington, I have a Tundra, I have a RPD. They're done. Seriously, in Black Ops Cold War, if you are ever having trouble getting a kill streak or, you know, surviving, hold a head glitch. It is so fucking devastating, and the maps are absolutely riddled with them. And if it's not a head glitch, it's a really predictable choke point that you can just watch and let people come into. And again, if you have an aim down sight M16 watching a corridor and somebody comes around the corner, even if they're fast as hell and they're able to shoot you in the head, doesn't matter. You can let them shoot you 1 or 2 times and then just put that burst or the second burst into their chest. Sometimes takes 2 bursts. I know, what an underpowered gun. Call of Duty has always had rifles that can 1 burst, but if you start shooting somebody who's bursting you in, let's say, Modern Warfare with the FAMAS, a very underrated weapon, you can shake their sight off of you, and that's great. That means that maybe 1 or 2 out of the 3 bullets hit, but the full 3 rounds don't hit. In Black Ops Cold War, there's really no real accuracy deviation when getting hit. So a burst from an M16 or an AUG is going to land into you if they had you lined up from the start. So it doesn't matter how fast or how good you are, the game is literally saying you didn't bring the right damage weaponry. And here's the thing, most of the weapons I'm complaining about are slower. They're not assault rifles, they're not SMGs, they're not shotguns. They are very heavy weapons in comparison. So what's the problem with giving them flinch? They're going to be playing more conservatively and using cover anyway. Why not make them actually have to use their cover and duck when they start getting shot by a really good player with an MP5? Why do you make the MP5 player get 3 hit markers and then just get 1 burst by somebody holding an angle? No Call of Duty has had perfect balance. I spent the last year complaining about Modern Warfare's, but one of the things I didn't complain about with Modern Warfare was flinch. Because if you're moving your feet in a gunfight, likely the flinch was never going to give your enemy a free headshot. The worst case scenario is you hold still against somebody using an SKS or an FAL or an M14, something like that, and you start shooting them in the chest and it brings their sight right up to your head, bam, you get one-shotted for just pulling the trigger on the dude. And that is not fair, and I would not integrate that into my ideal Call of Duty game. Alright, so this criticism tangent rant thing ends with a tip. When playing Black Ops Cold War, either hold an angle and just abuse this meta that Treyarch has designed. Abuse all of the weapons that subvert the time to kill, dual-wield Diamatis, crossbow, shotgun, ballistic knife, melee weapons. Use whatever you can to do that. And if you're deciding that you want to use an MP5 or a Bullfrog or an XM4 or an AK-47, AK-47 is damn good, but I recommend always moving in gunfights. Do not hold still, because you are not going to be able to give your enemies a variable by shooting them. Give them a variable by crouch spamming, drop shotting, jump shotting, and always having an exit strategy. Flinch was never a perfect mechanic, but I'm sorry, the concept of flinch makes a lot more sense than the concept of a global lack of it. Especially in a game that also has attachments that reduces screen shake when being shot. Your iron sights already don't really move, but you can put on attachments to make your screen even more stable when getting hit. Call of Duty games always have metas, and there are certain weapons that are at the top of those metas, at the top of the hierarchy, and that's never going to change. Black Ops Cold War tells you, the player, hey, not only is this person out DPSing you, if you shoot them first, they will have no reaction to it. So even if you're faster and more accurate than they are, doesn't fucking matter. So I recommend you guys stay on your feet and subvert that time to kill as best as you can if you're struggling in Black Ops Cold War. The public matches of Black Ops Cold War are not fair or skill-based, and I highly recommend cheesing the system as much as possible. I spent a good portion of my last Black Ops Cold War stream holding angles with an M16 because I was sick of losing gunfights to people holding angles with M16s or rushing me with a Gallo. The ways that you can subvert the time to kill, and the ways that your bullets just are less lethal than previous COD games, on top of people having more health, it's just a bit of a nightmare. So I would say Black Ops Cold War's meta is not in a good place, and it's heavily due to this amount of flinch. Oh, and what's my proposed fix for this? Give any weapon, like the M16, the SKS, the M14, the AUG, the sniper rifles, the LMGs, give them flinch. It's not that complicated. People using these weapons are going to be moving slower anyway. You should at least force them to use cover when they start taking damage instead of just tanking the damage and outgunning you. Especially when you add stuff like armor into the mix here, which I'm starting to see more and more of. I just really question the design principles over there at Treyarch if this was their ideal gunplay. It's not unplayable, it has its moments of being very fun, but this was a bad experiment, and I hope I don't see it again. Thank you so much for watching, I'll see you when I see you, goodbye.